Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend.
And the only times she traveled and went anywhere was with him. And guess who's on the other end with her Panama hat?
Let's be honest, if there were a royal family award for plot twists, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew would be front row nominees.
You're the same.
Like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
One sold herself as Hollywood's humanitarian sweetheart. The other spent decades sinking the monarchy's reputation faster than a yacht in the Mediterranean.
And I wonder if Prince Andrew's going to come out and say, hey, Harry, I did your wife quite a few times on yachts before you got her.
What?
No.
And now Tom Bower, the man who's built an entire career setting royal lies on fire, claims his newest receipts link these two unlikely names long before Prince Harry ever entered the picture. That's right.
She was a yacht girl. That's right. It's mentioned in the book.
According to Bower's files, Meghan wasn't just a curious outsider peeking into the palace gates. She might have already been mingling in Andrew's scandal-soaked circle years earlier. Same trips, same billionaires, same suspicious silences. Remember that moment when Meghan whispered to Harry, "Who's that next to your grandma?" pretending not to recognize Andrew? Yeah, Bower says that Innocence Act deserves an Oscar because once you trace the timelines, the yachts, the Hong Kong stopovers, the deleted interviews, you start seeing something the tabloids somehow missed, a connection hiding in plain sight.
Meghan used to entertain as a yacht girl. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it happened, but I am saying Harry knows it.
So buckle up. This isn't about gossip. This is about power, pretense, and the one royal connection Meghan Markle hoped the world would never Google. And when you see Bower's so-called receipts, you'll understand why the palace wants this story buried 6 feet under. This story isn't about what's proven. It's about proximity, perception, and why certain names keep resurfacing whenever royal power networks are examined.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001 when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University.
Back in 2001, while most Northwestern students were stressing over exams and frat parties, Meghan Markle seemed to be living a very different kind of college life. According to accounts mentioned in Tom Bower's earlier investigations and resurfaced social media chatter, Meghan allegedly disappeared from campus for several weeks that year, with friends later claiming she'd been traveling with wealthy acquaintances somewhere along the Mediterranean. No official record exists of where she went, but the whispers were persistent enough to catch the attention of royal watch circles.
Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
Years later, some online sleuths point to names like Ewan Relly, a London-based socialite and investment banker who reportedly knew Prince Andrew's associates before the Epstein scandal exploded. Bower doesn't accuse Meghan of wrongdoing, but he does underline what he calls coincidental patterns of proximity. It's overlapping social networks between ambitious Hollywood hopefuls and the elite European set. In old sorority photos, Meghan beams in pearls and cardigans, the picture of normalcy. But according to one former peer quoted in a UK tabloid, she vanished for a while, came back with stories that didn't quite add up. It might have been nothing more than an adventurous summer, yet the timing, Bower notes, placed her within the same luxury circuits often frequented by Andrew's friends, long before the world ever imagined their names appearing in the same headline. And if those early yacht whispers were just harmless gossip, why do the same names keep resurfacing years later, always right before Meghan's next big move?
And I know what you're gonna say. Maybe it was just that one trip. No, there were quite a few trips. There's actually quite a lot of pictures about them. There are 2 pictures that leaked.
After college, Meghan's official story paints her as an adventurous young woman, broadening her horizons through study programs in Spain and Argentina. But according to entertainment columnists and travel blogs later cited in Royal Watch communities, those early 2000s years were a blur of movement. Madrid, Ibiza, Thailand, Monte Carlo, destinations that sound less like classrooms and more like invitation-only summers. Friends quoted anonymously in lifestyle pieces recall lavish villa gatherings and friends of friends from European high society who seemed oddly well-connected for a 20-something actress still looking for her big break. Tom Bower's commentary describes this period as the ghost years, gaps in the public timeline where Meghan appeared briefly, then disappeared again. No verified photos link her to royalty or scandal, but several tabloid retrospectives have pointed out that some of the same billionaires later associated with Prince Andrew's social scene were hosting events during the exact months Meghan was said to be abroad. Whether that's pure coincidence or selective memory.
What I discovered was, of course, that she was hunting for a man in England from 2013, and she wanted wealth and she wanted fame, and there's no doubt she targeted Harry.
Bauer leaves open for interpretation. Public narratives also recall Meghan's growing interest in the UK press. One British journalist claimed she asked a lot about how the royal stories worked. Long before Suits fame, others mentioned that she admired British fashion circles, the kind that blurred entertainment and aristocracy. To supporters, it was ambition. To skeptics, calculated curiosity. But either way, those European ghost years built a bridge, a subtle one, between Hollywood's rising hopeful and Britain's most exclusive drawing rooms. And as the next chapter shows, that bridge would soon lead straight to a surprising city and an even more surprising royal encounter. By 2012, Meghan Markle's career was finally gaining traction. A recurring role on Suits, a few magazine features, and her first taste of international promotion. According to Entertainment Press archives and resurfaced blogs from that year, she was invited to Hong Kong for a brief appearance tied to a fashion event and a publicity tour. On paper, it looked like a standard influencer trip. But here's where the story twists. As Tom Bauer and other royal commentators later noted, Prince Andrew happened to be in Hong Kong during the same week, representing Britain for a trade and investment mission. There's no proof they met, no photo, no joint appearance. Still, Bauer's analysis focuses on what he calls a peculiar overlap. Flight logs confirm Andrew's presence. Social media posts, later deleted, show Meghan tagging luxury venues known to host VIP receptions.
In my opinion, in my analysis, and my experience of decades, this kind of analysis for me is the real deal. If a photo such as this of Meghan Markle with Prince Andrew years ago surfaces, that will be quite an scandal.
One archived interview clip pulled from an entertainment channel and since removed featured Meghan casually mentioning a British royal nearby, though she didn't specify who. Public speculation quickly filled in the blank. Local journalists recalled seeing both entourages at the same hotel chain, though none could confirm an interaction. To some, it was coincidence. To others, a curious convergence of timelines that looked too tidy to ignore. Royal watchers described the moment as the first visible intersection between Meghan's Hollywood ascent and the monarchy's inner machinery. And if Hong Kong was just a coincidence, it was one that foreshadowed the storm ahead, because the names, the venues, and the patterns were about to repeat, only this time far closer to the royal doorstep. If Hollywood is a web of connections, Soho House is the spider at the center. And according to multiple lifestyle magazines and biographer Tom Bauer's commentary, Meghan Markle was right there in its orbit. Between 2014 and 2016, reports describe her frequenting Soho House locations, from Toronto to Istanbul, often alongside fashion insiders and film producers with royal-adjacent reputations. One event, mentioned in a 2015 social column, allegedly placed Meghan at an Istanbul gathering hosted by Soho House investor Ron Burkle, a billionaire later cited by the press as a longtime acquaintance of Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew told, in your book, you talk about how Prince Andrew told Prince Harry his marriage to Meghan Markle would not last more than a month, and accused him of being bonkers for not doing his due diligence into her past.
There's nothing defamatory about it. That was the one point where people were sort of cheering him on.
Exactly.
Photos from the night surfaced years later showing Meghan posing with Eddie Redmayne and a cluster of British elites, though no captions linked her to anyone controversial. Still, those same images quietly vanished from several online archives within months of her royal engagement announcement. Bauer's research notes how many of Meghan's later key relationships, stylists, PR teams, even mutual friends of Harry, can be traced back to this very Soho network. To some analysts, it represents ambition and smart networking. To others, a glimpse of how calculated image building begins behind closed doors. And while those velvet curtained parties might have looked glamorous, sources say that within them were conversations, introductions, and alliances that would soon redefine Meghan's entire royal trajectory. In early 2017, long before royal wedding bells echoed across the world, Meghan Markle attended a destination wedding in Montego Bay, Jamaica, a trip that, according to entertainment outlets and later royal commentators, raised more than a few eyebrows. Officially, she was there as Prince Harry's guest, celebrating one of his close friends, but several tabloid reports and travel leaks noted that Meghan's flight arrangements didn't quite match Harry's. While Harry allegedly flew commercial with friends, sources told British media that Meghan arrived via a private jet reportedly connected to Ron Burkle, the same businessman earlier linked to both Soho House and royal acquaintances. Guest lists for that weekend included familiar names from from both Meghan's Hollywood world and Andrew's extended family.
Sarah Ferguson attended Tom and Skip's wedding in Jamaica in 2017. Meghan Markle was flown in private plane, allegedly belonging to Rob Burkle. Harry flew economy plus from the United Kingdom to Jamaica. And Fergie, Eugenie, and allegedly Andrew were at that wedding. And
multiple outlets confirmed that Princess Eugenie, Sarah Ferguson, and Prince Andrew were all present at nearby events during the same period. Yet, despite dozens of public photos surfacing from the wedding, none showed Meghan and Andrew in the same frame, a detail some online forums later labeled as strategic absence. In Oprah's now famous interview, Ferguson denied ever meeting Meghan before Harry, though timelines discussed by commentators suggested their circles had overlapped earlier. To some, Jamaica was a romantic getaway. To others, it marked the moment when separate royal storylines quietly crossed paths. And if those blurred photos and missing shots were coincidence, they were coincidences timed with near-perfect precision. By the time Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry became global news, media coverage around her shifted almost overnight. According to analysts cited in The Telegraph and royal biographers like Tom Bower, certain early stories, particularly those hinting at her pre-royal social network, began vanishing from online archives. Blog posts disappeared, image credits changed, and interviews once easily accessible suddenly redirected to page not found. Some journalists privately suggested that media management teams were working overtime to streamline her narrative, a polite term often used when reputations meet royal protocol. Bower and other commentators observed that this wasn't unique to Meghan. The royal press office has long been known for trading stories, suppressing one scandal to shield another. In Meghan's case, public narratives claimed the palace wanted to avoid any comparisons between her and the already toxic headlines surrounding Prince Andrew.
The royal family protecting Meghan, whether she wants to admit it or not. Is the royals actually protecting Prince Andrew potentially? Because they're so afraid if they blow up these Meghan Markle bullying allegations that it will inspire other people who worked under Andrew to come out and be like, well, wait until you hear about what I had to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, the Legion, the complaints about him, he doesn't seem to treat staff in the same way as they're not really proper people.
It was cleaner, safer, to present her as a newcomer untouched by royal controversy. Social media observers began compiling before and after examples of coverage, showing how tone and phrasing subtly softened after 2017. Nothing illegal, just careful editing of perception, a masterclass in image control. To supporters, it was smart PR. To critics, it was coordinated erasure. And when Bower hinted that his upcoming book contained the receipts others refused to print, royal watchers knew the next chapter would be anything but quiet. When Tom Bower releases a book, the palace usually winces, and his 2022 biography, Revenge, was no exception. In that and subsequent interviews, Bower described his research as a collection of open secrets and verified overlaps, gathered from dozens of insiders. He never alleged wrongdoing, but his notes, often labeled online as the Bower receipts, drew attention for highlighting a trail of coincidences connecting Meghan Markle's early travels to social figures once associated with Prince Andrew's world. According to media summaries of his work, Bower's files included overlapping guest lists, identical charity events, and names that reappeared across multiple international gatherings from the early 2000s to 2015. None of it was framed as proof, but rather as what he called circumstantial alignment. Public readers ran with the phrase, sparking online threads that attempted to reconstruct timelines using flight data, red carpet appearances, and press clippings. Critics accused Bower of fueling speculation without delivering hard evidence, while supporters praised him for documenting what mainstream outlets ignored. The debate turned his receipts into a viral talking point, not because they proved anything, but because they asked uncomfortable questions about royal transparency. To the public, Bower wasn't exposing. He was connecting dots others pretended not to see. And when those dots started forming patterns, palace watchers say silence became the loudest response of all. Once Tom Bower's findings began circulating through talk shows and digital tabloids, royal correspondents noticed something subtle but telling, a sudden wave of restraint. According to media insiders quoted by The Daily Beast and The Mirror, certain UK outlets were advised to avoid cross-referencing Meghan's timeline with names tied to Prince Andrew. It wasn't censorship, they said, just editorial discretion. But for royal watchers, the timing spoke volumes.
She'd been a Deal or No Deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits, it was on her yachting trips.
Public narratives suggest the palace was managing too two PR crises at once, one involving a senior royal's legal fallout, and another centered on a duchess struggling for public approval. Sources familiar with the communications teams described a strategy of segmentation, keeping storylines separate to prevent reputational crossfire. In practice, that meant anything connecting Meghan's pre-Harry years to royal circles was quietly ignored, regardless of whether it was true, speculative, or purely coincidental. Commentators like Dan Wooten and Angela Levin noted how the press tone toward Meghan hardened in some areas but softened in others, creating what they called a controlled narrative swing. Supporters viewed it as institutional protectionism. Critics saw it as selective storytelling at the monarchy's expense. Behind the polished palace walls, reporters say phones went silent, emails stopped returning, and one message echoed through the newsroom: don't mix the scandals. But as every journalist knows, the harder you bury a story, the deeper the public starts digging. Every royal story ends the same way, not with a bang, but with silence. The palace moves on, the papers change headlines, and the public is left piecing together what's true, what's twisted, and what was quietly erased. Tom Bower's revelations, whether you believe them or not, cracked open a version of royal history that refuses to fade. Meghan's timeline, Prince Andrew's shadow, the coincidences that seem too many to count. They all paint a picture of power, perception, and perfectly managed myth. And here's the thing, every time a door closes in this saga, another one creaks open. Because before these receipts even surfaced, Bower had already shaken the palace with an even more controversial discovery, a claim that questioned one of the most carefully protected chapters in Meghan's royal journey. Let's just say it involved her sudden announcement, the global headlines that followed, and what sources later described as inconsistencies too bold to ignore. If you missed that breakdown, it's already waiting for you. The story that had royal commentators divided and viewers stunned. You're watching Star Spotlight, where the curtain never stays closed for long. This story is about understanding, not accusation, and every detail shared here is meant to bring context, not conclusion.